5 years too late, but in 2023, I finally got around to watching Yellowstone, after hearing people talk about how good it was.
You ready to watch that happen?
It's basically cowboys meets the mafia. There's no doubt that the show is the epitome of drama, because oh my boy does it play up the drama. The type of show that so successfully hooks its audience that they can't stop watching despite its many flaws and plot holes. I like poking fun at things, whether they're bad or good, because the truth is no matter how good you make something, there will always be a flaw, and I find the flaws kind of hilarious sometimes. The Yellowstone series is a prime example of production that, despite its efforts, it's plagued with imperfections. It's almost as if these faults have become the staple of the show, a reoccurring joke among its audience. Nevertheless, it still manages to captivate and entertain, and oh boy does it. If you guys have not watched the Yellowstone show, and you like cowboys, horses, or just drama, or people acting ratchet, hold off from watching this video until you've actually seen a recap or watched the show. Upon the filming of this video, I reached the culmination of the 5th season of Yellowstone. Here are some of the most hilarious things about Yellowstone that a lot of people ignore, and these are the only things I can think of from the top of my head. So you have the illustrious Kevin Costner, who plays John Dutton. I profess, I absolutely love his character, and he is one of my favorites. What is the most hilarious thing about him is that he can do the most heinous things and still end up regarded as a heroic figure deserving of everyone's love and admiration. It's something that even the characters point out within the movie's universe. Sorry, the show's universe. The portrayal of this character as a devoted father is a remarkable aspect of his persona. And despite his unyielding nature, his wholesomeness is evident through his willingness to acknowledge his faults and make amends with his children and try to understand people who have opposing viewpoints, or maybe just women that he likes. Nevertheless, his interactions with his grandson lead him to realize the flaws in his family dynamic and the need to rectify the situation. But despite all of that, he all but admits to Beth that he doesn't love his adopted son, Jamie.
You know what's so dangerous about you, Jamie? You're consumed with the world's perception of you.
It's clear that John Dutton harbors resentment towards Jamie, as he frequently casts aspersions on poor Jamie from some inexplicable reason. I began to even wonder if Jamie was indeed his biological child. Oh, and I eventually learned the answer. Inexplicably, Jamie has been relegated to the fringes of the family, akin to a black sheep or a felon, which further intensifies my curiosity regarding this unexplainable mistreatment. On the contraire, it was John who decided to adopt Jamie. He insisted that Jamie go to law school and even arranged for a recommendation letter to be drafted on his behalf. So why is he upset that Jamie is now a successful lawyer, and a damn good one at that? Using his legal skills, Jamie has greatly aided the ranch's expansion and helped his father sweep a number of problems under the rug. John Dutton's committed followers hold him in high esteem because he treats them fairly and gives them opportunities. But the person who has the best chance and ability to bring John down via legal means is the one he treats the worst. By constantly vilifying Jamie, he has unwittingly turned his adopted son into the villain of his own story. It doesn't matter if Jamie is seeking approval. He's your son. And besides, John only ever wanted his children to seek his approval anyway, and to want to be on good terms with them. All of this happened before he found out that Jamie had sterilized Beth. In fact, I assumed that John Dutton's dislike of Jamie was connected to the fact that Jamie okayed a teenage Beth to have a hysterectomy without her consent. A terrible issue, and thus a source of Beth's animosity towards him. But later I learned that John didn't even know about that, and thus just didn't like Jamie off rip. What sense does that make? Everything we've seen of Jamie is him trying to help the ranch. While he and his father might have slightly divergent views, he's not wrong. It never ever seems throughout the show as if Jamie is actually a horrible person. Sure, he's done horrible things, but so is everybody else in the show. Yet Jamie's the only one who's made out to be a monster just because of his occupation. He's being the man his father raised him to be in every way he can. Beth's resentment of him makes sense to me, because he's the older brother and he should have known better. For John to hate him, but then later behind his back claim that he loves him and is hoping that Beth didn't kill him, was just very odd to me. It's equally as frustrating. The other thing that's really stupid about the show is the kid Tate. Don't get me wrong, I like him, I think he's adorable, and I think the dynamic with him and his family, specifically the bond he has between his grandfather and father, is pretty wholesome, even though that's quickly cast aside in the later seasons because he's older. But I like how Tate goes through a very traumatizing experience, something that mentally messes him up.
It's Daddy. It's Daddy. It's Daddy.
Are you okay, buddy?
Fully for him to be okay in the next few short moments, because all he needs is a night to lay underneath the stars, and then after he lays underneath the stars again, he's okay. Later on in the seasons, Tate kills someone to save his mother, and it really messes him up. He's sleeping under the bed and really in a bad mental state. And it's clear that the boy needs help, like professional help, but his father pulls him out from under the bed, tells him to get his shit together, and he's okay again. All of what was wrong with him psychologically is just pushed to the side and immediately conquered with just a word. It makes no freaking sense and undermines the trauma that he went through. It's enough to make you wonder what was even the point of them demonstrating that if all it took was his father to take him out from under the bed and tell him to go eat. Also, Jamie is a father now, and I thought it'd be a great subplot if Beth decided to steal his kid and raise him with her and Rip instead. Because to tell you the truth, Jamie did deny her the chance to have children of his own. And he at the very least should have made her some sort of offer. I understand the depth of a parent's love for a child, but he should have at least apologized for ruining that aspect of her life without asking. Yes, he also has the woman to worry about, but does he really? After that dumbass woman shows up in his life again, to tell him that the kid is his something he should have gotten a DNA test for, being a lawyer, because they were away for all that time. Also, she broke up with him and chased him away. Who knows who else she was screwing around with, but Jamie's stupid. And yeah, we just never see that woman again. Ever. Seriously, after Jamie kills his father, the woman just disappears. We're never shown what occurs after he kills his father, or how he explains it to the mother of his supposed kid, but the implication remains that he continues to see his child. He has the car seat in the back when he's giving Beth a ride. Has her fear of him prompted her to flee? Was she even at home with the kid at the time of the gunshot? Did the actress need a vacation and so they just left it up in the air? It is mind-boggling how many storylines and subplots in the Yellowstone universe are just ignored. Touching back on storylines, while it's commendable that Jimmy's character underwent a significant transformation, a glow-up as I call it, the same cannot be said for the Indian chairman who initially served as a formidable adversary for John. After being sidelined, the character's motivation just goes away for no reason, leaving him open to constant insults from that double-dealing snake of a woman. It really is a shame to witness such a promising character undergo such an unceremonious decline, or just outright stagnation. They only tag him in every now and then to remind you he still exists, which is more than I can say for most of the other characters. Walker, a character that I did like, was so terrified of the ranch, and so against doing anything that was illegal, but now he's completely okay with it. Granted, he had to do so to save his own life, but you'd think that afterwards you'd see a little bit of conservation, but nope. Overnight, just an immediate change. As a matter of fact, he's a lot more cocky and becomes an absolute asshole to Lloyd.
But I fucking know you. I seen 1,000 of you in prison, thinking you're some kind of bully, till a bigger bully comes along. We all know how that ends.
Yeah, with a knife in your freaking chest because you can't keep your goddamn mouth shut.
You on your fucking knees, bitch.
Where the hell are you going? Fuck this place. Mia!
But then she comes back very soon after. That's what I'm talking about. With the freaking wonkiness of this show, I love it. And speaking of characters and Jimmy's arc, he had a broken back when John, as a result of rodeoing. And he further injured himself, requiring him to wear a brace at all times. He had this brace when John Dutton sent him down to the Texas 4-6's ranch to become a man. And the first thing they do is they tell him to take off the brace because the guy didn't want him wearing it in the truck. But it's okay because all of a sudden he's fine now. Also, Beth threatens Jamie, and it took Jamie the longest while to realize that Beth actually had nothing on him. Because by just utilizing a picture she had of him dragging his dad's dead body to the place where they dumped bodies, she would in turn incriminate her father, who was dumped more bodies down there, even though there is more proof of Jamie doing it. She didn't even have the sense to know that Jamie would take down everybody with him if she sees him as the enemy. She wants Jamie to be faithful to the ranch, but she constantly provokes him and tells him he's not a part of the family so that he has more of a motivation to not act in the family's interests, even though that's all he ever tried to do. And I know they try to make it look as though she didn't know where they dumped the dead bodies and she was completely blindsided by it, but Beth is a very smart individual. She never once thought to ask, hey, what happens to the dead bodies we kill? The amount of shootings and situations that happen that even Beth is aware of, she never thought to ask what happens to them. Tell me something. If she didn't know where the location was, how was she there before Jamie stopped to throw his father off the cliff? She was literally already at the location before Jamie pulled up, which is why she was just standing there and Jamie didn't see her in the dark. You see what I mean when I say the show starts to freaking fall apart? One cannot deny that Jamie is a proficient efficient lawyer, or at least that's what the show would have us believe. But it's truly baffling to fathom why he would be so foolish as to believe that the mere photograph of him carrying what looks to be just a folded up rug would lead to an incrimination. Such actions seem rather out of character for someone who has demonstrated a fair degree of legal expertise. Why didn't he tell her right there and then that by doing so, she would also incriminate her father? And if he had the presence of mind to figure that out sometime later, why did he not have the motivation to figure that out before he actually killed his father? Which was the very thing Beth was blackmailing him for in the beginning.
Option 1, tell my father. He will call the governor and he will have you both arrested. Your spineless, woman-murdering father.
Also, Jamie was absent for the longest part of his life because he chose to be. He's an attractive guy, and he's a son of a very successful rancher. I'm pretty sure there were other situations where girls were throwing themselves at him, but yet the last 2 women who bat their eyes at him, even though one of them is a blatant known opposition, all of a sudden it's like he can't think anymore. I understand all he's ever wanted was love, and it must be pretty lonely. But really? Nobody? Also, why is Beth so mean to the kid that she decided to adopt with Rip? She happily claims that's their kid, and yeah, he messed up and had to get set straight. Then when the kid calls her mama, she gets upset. I know maybe it's triggering for her to be called mom because she lost her child and lost the ability to have any more. Maybe she sees him as a son but doesn't want to be called mom. But if you don't want to be called mom, stop sending mixed signals to the kid by making him feel as though you are. We understand now that she was just being kind to him and still sees him as a member of the family, and she didn't explain the reason why she doesn't want to be called mom. Also, considering that her mom was taken away from her, and she probably carried the guilt around her entire life thinking that she is responsible for her mom's death. But it still felt odd for me for her to play around with Rip and say, oh, we have a kid, that's our kid, honey, and then not expect sooner or later for the kid to see you as his mom. Also, the Beck brothers, who had been long-standing tycoons, all of a sudden lose their shit and risk everything because John decided to fight back. Lips, hair, and teeth over here. It was so unrealistic, his behavior, and short-lived, I actually laughed throughout the whole thing. Like, they went to the lengths that they went to kidnap his kid and all of his... It was just so outlandish. It was so freaking CW. Despite that, the ostentatious over-the-top soap opera drama that characterizes Yellowstone has a certain charm to it, which I can appreciate on a personal level. Speaking of over-the-top, while many viewers may harbor contempt for the likes of Beth, I actually find her character to be quite endearing. Her brazenness, as evidenced by her audacious provocation of the would-be assailant who tried to do something to her, is undoubtedly a testament to her badassery. Seriously, that entire scene had me in stitches delight. Don't know how she was badass enough to survive an explosion mere feet away from her, but anyway. One of the other annoying things in the show, probably the most annoying for me throughout most of the show, was Monica. Oh my god, she was a bit tolerable after she loses her child, something that was 100% her fault, by the way, because which person drives by not looking at the damn road?
It just comes in waves.
Sure. She's so annoying.
In the initial stages of the show, Monica was a certainly insufferable character, displaying this holier-than-thou attitude with a constant air of negativity.
Look at you guys. I thought moving the class outside for a day would get you off your phones, but you're still staring at your tiny screens. Liking photos of people you've never met, commenting on their lives while they comment on yours. Do you have any idea what's happening in the world you live in?
No, nobody fucking cares. Shut up. Then she basically gives them a lecture telling them how pieces of shit they are, being raised in the environment that molded them to be that way. And then she just walks out and quits on them.
They will kill your brother and steal your child and pollute everything you love. And you'll never notice because you're so hypnotized by a world that doesn't exist. What a waste of my fucking time.
Best thing that could have ever happened to those students is having that blood-sucking, joyless freaking banshee leave and go somewhere else and get a new teacher. Thank you. Exactly. The looks on their faces. I mean, this idiot chases her husband away and technically cheats on him, and then gets upset when another woman likes him. She has this negative energy around her all the time, and it's very depressive, even before she experienced her loss. She seems to be rather indignant at Dutton's efforts to defend his ranch against opposing forces, despite the fact that her own people have resorted to similar tactics in the past in order to protect their land. It got to a point where it was so bad where I would not have been sad, except for Casey, if Monica freaking bit the dust. That being said, despite the endless flaws and plot holes holes. It's a kind of drama that works because it's just that. Like, it's 100% drama. While the writing of Yellowstone may not always be entirely realistic, one can't deny that the show is incredibly engaging and enjoyable. If you can take bad writing but yet make something engaging because of how entertaining it is, you got something there. Yellowstone seems to be utilizing a formula that was popularized in the olden day soap opera shows our parents watched, and it's intriguing to see how this approach has been adapted to the modern day context. And it's clear that it works as it's very successful. Despite knowing all of this, I still very much enjoy the show. And I'm gonna enjoy it more hearing that Matthew McConaughey is rumored to be appearing in the later parts of the universe of Yellowstone. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.